Hello, everyone. I'm Julia, and today we are talking about 2 different ways that a plan presented in a GMAT argument can go wrong. The first is flawed reasoning, and the second is offsetting factors. These 2 concepts show up a lot in critical reasoning questions, and knowing the difference can help you get the most out of interpreting arguments with the least amount of stress. Let's start with flawed reasoning. Flawed reasoning is when there is an obvious gap in logic. The conclusion doesn't follow from the premises because something important is missing or is assumed without justification. Here is an example. For 2 years afterward, people who have successfully climbed Mount Everest have a lower rate of heart attacks than people in general. Therefore, it must be the case that people can decrease their chances of experiencing heart attack by climbing Mount Everest every 2 years. This is certainly an interesting take, but it's flawed. The author sees correlation and goes straight to a causal claim. They don't consider that it could be random correlation, it could be a sequencing issue. Perhaps those with a lower risk of heart attacks are more likely to climb Mount Everest, or it could be some third unmentioned event or variable causing people to be both more likely to climb Everest and less likely to have a heart attack in the following 2-year period, such as this intense fitness regimen or some other thing. This argument is flawed reasoning. When you see flawed reasoning, then there's a good chance the answer will address that flaw in some way. This offsetting factors, on the other hand, don't have to the logic. This just need to block the effect of a well-reasoned plan. In other words, the logic is fine, the plan makes sense, unless something interferes. Here is one such example. This cigarette smokers quit smoking. A law was passed requiring cigarette manufacturers to lower the amount of nicotine, a highly addictive stimulant found in cigarettes. Therefore, after the passage of the law, smokers will consume less nicotine. This makes sense in theory. Nicotine is addictive, less nicotine, less addiction. What does this plan require to work as intended? Smokers will not smoke more cigarettes to compensate for the lower amounts of nicotine found in each cigarette. What if we negate this? If smokers did smoke more cigarettes to compensate for the lower amounts of nicotine found in each cigarette, then the law is not going to have the intended effect. The smokers could be getting as much nicotine as they were getting before the law passed, if not more. This is an offsetting factor. The logic of the plan is fine, but it didn't account for external real-world factors like changes in human behavior. The author failed to account for shifting circumstances. Here is a little comparison. The first thing to check when you read a critical reasoning argument is the logic solid. Does the plan, outcome, or conclusion follow from the evidence used to support it? If not, the reasoning is probably flawed. There's a reasoning gap. If the logic is okay, then you're probably going to be looking for an offsetting factor. What does each type of argument assume? In a flawed reasoning argument, a necessary link that is not justified by supporting evidence. It is not supported well. In offsetting factors, the only assumption is that everything will go as intended, that there will be no pushback, there will be no workarounds, there will be no interference that occurs that renders the plan ineffective in some way. The result of this error in assumption is that the planned result doesn't follow when you're talking about flawed reasoning, because it was not a reasonable planned result for what you were basing it on. In offsetting factors, the plan is in fact neutralized in practice, even though the reasoning was okay. And the solution for flawed reasoning, you just need better support. You need stronger or additional supporting evidence. You need to factor something in that makes the intended plan more solid. For offsetting factors, you need to guard against outside interference. So you need to clearly rule out something such as smokers will not simply go and buy more cigarettes at the new lower nicotine level. You have to control for those things that weren't controlled for in the original argument. These plan issues do manifest in different critical reasoning question types. In assumption questions, the author is assuming no offsetting factor will occur. In weakening questions, the correct answer often introduces an offsetting factor. In logical flaw questions, you're spotting logical gaps that were there from the beginning. Learning how the different arguments work helps you know what to look for when you're looking through the answer choices. If you're noticing gaps right away, then the correct answer is likely going to involve that apparent gap that jumped out at you. The better you get at interpreting arguments, the easier critical reasoning will be for you. I know that is very simple to say and a lot harder to develop, but be curious. Look for issues and weak points. Understand the limitations that you are working with and that the authors are working with, and find gaps in what remains. Thank you for watching, and I will see you next.